Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. For those of you that are listening in on my YouTube channel, thank you so much for being here. Please like, please share, please subscribe, and leave your comments. For those of you that are listening in on my podcast, Fundable by Design, this conversation is for you. All right. This conversation is for you. If you have started your nonprofit organization, and you have launched your program, right? You got your 501c3, you've got your articles of incorporation, you have your EIN, you have your board, you have your passion and your mission already designed, and now you are structured it on paper to be a nonprofit organization or to operate as a nonprofit organization. But this is something that I want to clear up as one of the biggest misunderstandings in the nonprofit world. This is one of the biggest misunderstandings as it relates to the nonprofit world, okay? And that is your program, right? The work that you do in your community, you're feeding families, you're mentoring youth, you're helping single moms, your after school programs, your backpack drives, your ministry, whatever it is that you are doing in the community is a program. But your program is not the nonprofit organization. And this misunderstanding is resulting in so many nonprofit leaders winding up, ending up burnt out, underfunded, right? Or carrying everything alone. It is one of the biggest misunderstandings in the nonprofit space, where you think that the program is the nonprofit. You might believe that filing the paperwork is the nonprofit. Your 501c3 status is the nonprofit. The program is the nonprofit. And it's not. Because you believe it. Because you believe, you've heard somewhere, start a nonprofit, you can get a grant. Start a nonprofit, you can get funding. Start a nonprofit, you can get money from the government. Start a nonprofit, you can get donors. So in your mind, you believe that paperwork is the nonprofit organization. The 501c3 is the nonprofit, or your program is the nonprofit. And because you believe that, you file the paperwork, you launch the program, you start helping your community, and you think, I started a nonprofit. And then something happens. The money doesn't come. The funding doesn't come. You can't get a grant. You started the nonprofit, right? And now something happens after you started doing the program, after you started helping people. Now you don't have funding. Now you don't have board members that can help raise money for the organization. Now you're paying for everything out of your pocket. Now you don't have donors, you don't have partners, you don't have contributors. And now you're overwhelmed. Now everything is falling on you, right? You're running the program, you're running the organization, you're trying to figure out how to generate revenue, you're trying to find board members who can help you raise money, you are looking for partners and collaborators, you're trying to get a grant, and everything falls on you. And now the organization has become stressful instead of sustainable. I'm going to say that again for the people in the bushes. Now the organization has become stressful instead of sustainable. And you start asking yourself, why is this so hard? Jen, starting a nonprofit is so hard. Jen, running a nonprofit is so hard. And that's because nobody explained that the program is not the organization. And the organization is the part that brings in the money. I'm going to say that again. When you decide to start a nonprofit, the nonprofit organization is not the program. The organization is the part that brings in the money. The organization is the part that the grant funder, those that give the grant money, they're looking and evaluating the program, they're looking and evaluating the organization, not the program. Let me say that again. Your program and your organization are not the same thing. The program is an expense. The program is the piece that you do to help, to serve, to touch the community, feeding, housing, mentoring, right? The after-school programs, that's the program. That's the activity part. That's the expense part. But the program and the organization are not the same thing. And so the organization is the part that your donors, your funders, your supporters, your contributors, those sponsors, they are evaluating the organization and not the program. And that's the piece that no one told you. That's the piece that no one explained. How do we know? Because you started a nonprofit organization, but you didn't set that up. What you did was got the paperwork filled out, launched the program. Remember, the program is nothing but an expense. The program doesn't get the grant. The program doesn't get sponsors. The program doesn't raise money. The program doesn't fundraise. The program is nothing but an expense. And the program and the organization are not the same thing. The organization is the part that brings in the money. But no one told you that. And so now you're stuck. And most of you think in your mind that you are starting a program. Jen, I started my nonprofit and we're a pantry. Jen, I started my nonprofit and we do mentoring. Jen, I started a nonprofit and we provide housing support. Jen, I started my nonprofit and we do after school programs. Jen, I started my nonprofit and we help single moms. Jen, I started my nonprofit and we do community outreach. That's not a nonprofit. It's not. And that's why many of you are stuck, why many of you are struggling, why many of you are frustrated because you thought you started a nonprofit and you didn't. You started a program. And you've been so focused, hear me now, you've been so focused on helping people, right? Jen, I want to help single moms. Jen, I want to help young people. Jen, I want to start a ministry. Jen, I want to give away backpacks. Jen, I want to meet the need of youth. Jen, I want to do whatever it is that you want to do to help people because you genuinely care. You genuinely care. And you believe that the money, right, that you can fundraise, that you can get a grant, that you can get donors, that you can get partners, that you can get supporters, that you can get contributors, that they will come once the people see the need that you are addressing, right? Once they see that your program is helping people, once they see that your program and your mission is doing good work, that they will give you money. Now you're waiting on a grant. Now you're waiting on board members to help you raise money because you got a program. And so you step out on faith, right? You step out on faith and you've launched quickly. You said, Jen, I got my 501c3. Jen, I registered at the state. Jen, I got my EIN. I got my articles of incorporation. Jen, I got my letter, right? I waited for the IRS to send me their paperwork. What does that paperwork say? That paperwork doesn't say you started a nonprofit. That paperwork says you now are recognized or determined to be a tax exempt organization. That paperwork doesn't say you started a nonprofit. That's not what that paperwork says. It says it is a determination letter. What does the determination letter mean? That your organization now is allowed to raise money that is exempt of taxes. That does not say anything about, I started a nonprofit, Jen. This is my program. That is not what that paperwork says. But because you don't know that, right? You've invested in the paperwork. That does not say you started a nonprofit, but that's not what people are telling you, right? Because you typed in steps to starting a nonprofit. How do I start a nonprofit? And Google and chat both say to you, fill out the paperwork. So you step out on faith, you fill out the paperwork, you launch the program, right? Helping people, feeding young people, doing the after school program, giving out the backpacks. You launch the program because you want to help people, right? So now you've launched the program and you now start serving people. You start doing the program work. But what you did not realize is that you did not start anything but a program. That's not what the paperwork says. The paperwork says that you started a nonprofit organization. The organization and the program are not the same thing. The program is the part that touches people in the community. And the people that you're touching in the community aren't your donors. They're not your supporters. They're not your contributors. They're not your sponsors. They're not the ones that attend the events. They're not the ones that contribute to the work of achieving the mission. But that's what you started. You didn't realize that when you started your nonprofit organization, that not only did you start a program, but the paperwork says that you started an organization. Put organization in the chat. The paperwork says organization, not program. The paperwork says organization. The organization has the 501c3, not the program. The organization is registered at the state, not the program. The organization has the mission, not the program. The organization maintains the budget, not the organization. I'm sorry, not the program. The organization raises the money, not the program. You started an organization that oversees a program, but you didn't set up the organization. You started the program. And you thought that once I start the program, I can raise money later. So now you're paying for everything out of your pocket. You started the program, you're paying for the materials, you're paying for the supplies, you're paying for the gas, you're paying for the internet, you're paying for the phone, you're paying for the accounting, you're paying the bank fees, you're paying everything for that program out of your own pocket. And the organization now doesn't have any money. Jen, I need donors. Jen, funding is my biggest issue. Jen, I don't have board members that can help me raise money. Jen, I can't get a grant. Jen, I'm doing everything by myself. Jen, everybody's a volunteer. Jen, nobody gets paid. That's not how it's supposed to be. But what you started on paper was an organization. Now, that's not what people are telling you, though. That's not what people are telling you. So now you got a whole 501c3. That's an organization. That's not a program. The nonprofit or the not-for-profit status is on the organization, not the program. And they're not the same thing. But you launch the program, which is only an expense. The program is only an expense. It does not raise money. It does not get any money. It only spends the money. The organization, which has the 501c3, the organization, which is tax exempt, not the program, the organization is required. I don't think you're hearing me. Now, this is the part that no one says out loud. And this is why 90% of you have started your nonprofit organizations and now you're stuck. You started your nonprofit organization and now you're paying for everything out of your pocket. You started your nonprofit organization and you're confused about how come you can't get a grant. How come you can't get board members? How come you can't get funders and supporters? How come you can't get How come you're paying for everything out of your pocket? Now you're confused. I thought that once I started a nonprofit, I could get a grant. I thought that once I started a nonprofit, I could get funding, but you didn't start the organization. You started the program. The program is not the organization. The program spends the money. The materials, the supplies, the space, the person running the program, the equipment, that's money going out. No money comes in through the program. The money comes in through the organization, but that ain't what you put together. That's not what you structured. And the organization requires that you have a fundraising infrastructure. The organization has the fundraising infrastructure. It has the operations of raising money. Are you hearing what I'm saying? That's the way the organization is set up. The organization is set up with a raising of money infrastructure, an operational process to bring money in. The money goes to the organization. The organization is what acquires donors. The organization is what gets the funding. The organization is what does the events. The organization is what diversifies the funding streams from the money-raising infrastructure. Fundraising is not money. Fundraising is the process, is the structure, is the system of bringing in money into the organization. So now you started your nonprofit organization. You launched the program. You didn't set up the organization's infrastructure, the system, the process, the plan to bring in money. Now you don't have any money. Jen, I'm paying for everything out of my pocket. Jen, we don't have any donors. Jen, we don't have any supporters. Jen, my board's not helping us raise money. Jen, I'm paying for everything out of my own pocket. Why? Why? Now I need a grant. Jen, now I need donors. Jen, now I need sponsors. Jen, now I need partners. Jen, now I need collaborations. What's all that? Money. All that's money that you're supposed to have, that you can have. You have 8 streams of revenue. You have individuals. These are your donors, your regular donors, your monthly donors, your major donors, your annual donors, people. You have businesses, corporations. You have grants. You have fundraisers, events. You have in-kind, program fees, products and services, and partnerships and collaborations. You have 8 ways that money is supposed to come into the organization. The organization is set up with the infrastructure to raise the money from those places. You're supposed to have ongoing cash flow, but nobody told you that. And you assumed that it was your program that was going to raise the money, which is why you launched the program first. right? Because you thought my program is the nonprofit organization, and that's not true. That's why you're stuck. That's why you're overwhelmed. That's why you don't have donors and supporters. That's why your board can't help you raise money, because you didn't set the organization up with the right infrastructure to raise money. How do you think those other organizations in your community are raising money? How do you think they have a building? How do they have buses and vans with their names on them? How do they pay salaries? How do they have multiple programs? Because they have the infrastructure. They have an organizational infrastructure whose role it is. The role of the organization, not the program. Those are two different things. The role of the organization is to bring in the money. Now, if you don't have any money, I'm going to say to you to think about this. Your organization doesn't have any money. Why? Jen, I don't have a plan to raise money. Jen, I don't know how to raise money. Jen, when I started my nonprofit organization, I didn't even make bringing in the money the priority. I didn't make that a priority, Jen. Jen, I didn't know as a nonprofit I could bring in money because I'm a nonprofit, by the way. Jen, I'm a nonprofit. How are we supposed to have any money? But you know that you need the money. You know you need donors. That's money. You know you need grants. That's money. You have fundraisers. That's money. You have in kind. That's money. You need partners. That's money. You need collaborators. That's money. What are you talking about? I know you didn't know. I know you didn't know because chat didn't tell you. And many of you are getting your information from the internet. And it's giving you information, but not complete information. It's giving you information, but not the information in the right order. So now you've done the paperwork. I did the paperwork, Jen. I got my 501c3. I registered at the state. I got my EIN, Jen. I got my articles of incorporation. All that is paperwork. That is not an organization. None of that raises money. And now you started the program. And you think that the program is going to get you the grant. Jen, this is my program. I need a grant, Jen, because we need a building for our program. Jen, I got a program that I'm helping single moms. And so I need a grant, Jen, so that I can help single moms. Jen, I want to do a transitional house. So I want a grant that's going to buy me a house so I can do transitional house. It's not the program that gets the money. It's the organization. And that is a completely different level of responsibility. Put responsibility in the chat. The responsibility of the program is to help the people, but that's only an expense. Okay? The responsibility of the program is to help the people in need, but that's only an expense. The responsibility of the organization, now those are two different things. The responsibility of the organization is to bring in the money to cover the expense of the program. The responsibility of the organization is to bring in the money to cover the expense of the program. If the organization has not been set up with the infrastructure, with the plan, with the process to bring in the money, now this program is only an expense. And this is what you're paying for out of your pocket. Money going out, 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 no money coming in. Now you are the sole supporter of the program. The organization now is not able to pay its own expenses. The organization is not able to pay salaries, is not able to keep the program going. The organization doesn't have any money. So now you're paying for everything out of your pocket because you didn't set the organization up with the responsibility of raising money. You didn't set that up. You thought the program was going to bring in the money. The program only spends the money. You are experiencing that because you're paying for everything out of your pocket. You're paying for the program, you're paying for the materials, you're paying for supplies, you're paying for the equipment, you're paying for the website, you're paying for the phone, you're paying for the internet, you're paying for the bank fees, you're paying for the accounting, you're paying for everything. But the organization has the responsibility of sustaining itself. How come the organization is not raising any money? How come the organization is not paying its own expenses? Why are you doing it? Because you didn't know. I thought, Jen, once I started my nonprofit, I would fundraise later. That once I got my name out there, I would raise money later. Now you 2 years, 4 years, 6 years in, no money's coming in. You've had to cut back on the program. You've had to scale back on the program. And many of you have quietly closed the doors of the whole thing because there's no money coming in to keep it going. And now you're confused about why is it so hard? I'm telling you why it's hard. Y'all are trying to start something without complete information. You don't know the responsibility of the organization. You just think the responsibility of the program is to help people. But there's a responsibility of the organization. Let me tell you what the 1023 form is actually asking. And this is what many of you miss because you don't know, right? You never started a nonprofit organization. You've never worked in a nonprofit organization. You've never structured a nonprofit organization. You've never built a nonprofit organization. You have no idea what it requires to put together the infrastructure of the nonprofit organization. All you see from the outside, looking at other nonprofit organizations, what you see from the outside, looking at other nonprofit organizations is the program, right? You see them feeding, you see them giving away backpacks, you see them with the food pantry, you see them helping the community. So from the outside, it looks like it's free. It looks like all the nonprofit is doing is helping. All the nonprofit is doing is giving away. So from the outside, it looks like that's what the nonprofit is whatever the program is, right? The after school program, the giving away backpacks, the food pantry, the giving away bikes at holidays. It looks like from the outside, that's the nonprofit, and that's not true. And this is the part that many of you miss. What you don't see is the organization coordinating, getting those backpacks, making and building relationships for the delivery or the contribution of those backpacks. You don't see that part. You don't see what the organization is doing behind the closed doors. But let's talk about what the 1023 form actually says. Because when you start with the paperwork, right? Jen, I filed my paperwork and I'm waiting for the response for my paperwork, Jen. I filed a paperwork, which is the 1023 form. And I'm waiting for my paperwork to come back, Jen. Jen, how long does it take to start a nonprofit? How long does it take before I get the paperwork back, right? Because you think when I get the paperwork back, I can launch my program and I can get a grant. But that's not what it means. So what does the 1023 form actually say? Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready? When you fill out the 1023 form, the IRS is asking questions about money, not program. I mean, we're at the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. The Internal Revenue Service is not concerned about your program on that form. That's not what it's talking about. That when you fill out that 1023 form, the IRS is asking about money because taxes come out of money, not program. So they're asking questions about money. Tax exempt, because that's what your status is, right? Tax exempt. Taxes comes out of money coming in. It didn't come out of program. So that 1023 form is asking about money. It's asking about raising money. It's asking about your operations and your knowledge of how to raise money, not program. It's asking about your projected income. I don't think you heard me. On the short form, it asks you about gross annual receipts. Huh? On the 1023 short form, the easy form, before you start filling it out, right here at the top, at the very, very top of the form, it asks you about income. It asks you how much money is the organization going to bring in. Before you start filling it out, it starts talking about money. But see, you didn't hit that because somebody else filled out the form for you. You thought, oh my gosh, I can get the money later. But not all this form is talking about is money. It's talking about your organization's operations. It's talking about your organization's projected plan for raising money. It's asking about your organizational activities and structure to bring in the money. It says it right here before you fill out the form. At the very tippy top, before you start completing it, this is what it says. It says, have who's the your organization. Have your organization. Does your organization, right? Does your annual gross receipts exceed $50,000 in any of the past 3 years? And or does your organization project, anticipate, know how? Is it structured to bring in annual gross receipts? What is that? Revenue, money that will exceed $50,000 in any of the next 3 years. The paperwork says your organization has the plan and the infrastructure to raise money. That you know how to project how much money you're going to need for the next 3 years. Now, why would we start a nonprofit organization, launch the program, pay for that program out of your pocket for 1 year, 2 year, 4 year, 5 years, 6 years, 9 years more, and the organization does not bring in any money? Jen, funding is our biggest issue. Jen, we don't have any donors. Jen, my board doesn't know how to raise money. Jen, I'm paying for everything out of my pocket. But that's not what the paperwork says. Before you fill it out, it says what? Identification of applicant. Applicant. Who's filling out the 1023 form? It says identity of organization. Your organization. That's what it says. Identity of organization. That means your organization is applying for the 1023 form. The organization is getting the 501c3, and the organization knows how, is structured to bring in money, not do program. But see, this is the biggest mistake that you all are falling into because nobody's telling you this but me. I'm telling you what Chat ain't told you. I'm telling you what Uncle Google ain't told you. And now you're stuck. Jen, I started my nonprofit, but we don't have any money. Why don't you have any money? The paperwork says you know how to raise money. The paperwork says your organization has the activities and the infrastructure to raise money. That's what the paperwork says. Why does the IRS, let's talk about it now. Why does the IRS ask you before you start filling this form out? Why does it ask you about money? About your organization's knowledge, clarity, projection of where money comes from? This is before you get your 501c3. This is to get the 501c3. This application, the easy form, talks about money, not program. Talks about your organization, not program. Why? Why is the IRS talking about that? Because the IRS assumes you understand how the organization will sustain itself financially. I'm going to say that again for the people in the bushes. The IRS assumes that you, who started this whole thing, you who started it, the IRS assumes that you understand how the organization is structured, is responsible for, knows how to sustain. That means bring in money financially to keep its doors open, to be able to accomplish the mission on an ongoing basis. Because if you don't understand that, if you don't know that, then how the organization supposed to have any money? How is it that the organization is supposed to raise money? Jen, I don't know how to fundraise. Jen, I don't have a plan to fundraise. Jen, I don't know how to start fundraising. Jen, I need a grant. Jen, if I could just get a grant, Jen. Jen, I know that I need to do fundraising, but I haven't made that a priority because I don't know where to start. I'm just putting that off. That really says, no, Jen, I've not set the organization up to bring in money. And because of that, you now are paying that money out of your pocket to keep that program going, as opposed to, instead of the organization bringing in the money to pay for the organization. But that's not how you set it up. Am I telling the truth? This is the biggest mistake y'all made. And as a result, 90% of you do not realize that money is not your problem. You think money's your problem. Jen, I don't have donors. Jen, I don't have funding. Jen, my board's not helping me raise money. Jen, I can't get sponsors. Jen, we don't have any supporters. Jen, I'm paying for everything out of my pocket because that's how you set it up. That's not a money issue. That's not a money issue. That's not a money issue. The issue to that is, no, Jen, I never set the organization up to raise money. I never set it up. I started it, I got my paperwork, and I launched that program. And that program is nothing but an expense. And you thought that the paperwork, which says you know how to raise money, the paperwork that says your organization knows the responsibility that it has to raise money, you thought the paperwork is the nonprofit. No. The paperwork creates the legal formation. This only creates the legal formation. It does not automatically create the organization's systems, structure, infrastructure, operational structure. It does not create the donor relationships. The paperwork does not help you identify budget or financial management. That's not what this does. And that is where the confusion begins. And so what happens? Now you've launched your program first, right? You filled out the paperwork, you launched the program, and now people depend on the services, right? You're helping single moms, you're doing summer programs, you're doing after school programs, and now people are depending on your services of your program. At the same time, the expenses increase. Now you got materials, you need supplies, you need space, you need somebody to run the program, right? So now your expenses increase. Also, now your operations, your board operations, your fundraising operations, right? Attracting donors, getting grant funded. Now everything becomes very complicated. And the money pressures grow. Jen, we don't have any money. We don't have any money, Jen. Jen, everybody's a volunteer. Jen, funding is my biggest issue. Jen, I'm paying for everything out of my pocket for 2 years, 4 years, 6 years more. Every year. How long? How many years? How many years have y'all been paying for everything out of your pocket? Every year, you're paying for everything out of your pocket. Not able to get a grant. No donors, no funders, no supporters, no board members helping you raise money. That's not a money problem. And now the money pressure grows that every year goes by, no grant, no donors, no supporters, no contributors. And you think that the problem is money. No, the problem is you did not set up the organization to bring in the money. And then all of a sudden you realize, I don't actually know how to raise money. All of a sudden you realize, I don't actually know how to get donors. I don't actually know how to get board members. I don't actually know how to structure the organization to raise money. I don't have a fundraising plan. All of a sudden you realize how many years? How many years go by? How many years go by? You're confused about we don't have any money. 1 year, 2 year, 4 years, 6 years, 9 years more. And now you begin scrambling. Now you begin chasing grants. Now you begin grinding, right? Now you'll begin applying for grants everywhere. You're sending out sponsorship letters, random, honey, random sponsorship letters. You are sending out grants to anything that has a pulse or an application. You are trying random fundraisers or fundraising tactics, scrambling, randomly scrambling. Because you built the mission, but not the machine that sustains the mission. I'm going to say that again. You built the program, but not the organization that sustains the program. I'm going to use an analogy. Imagine opening a store. Imagine opening a store and you buy products and you decorate the building, right? You decorate the building, it looks amazing. You launch your idea and then you open the doors to the store. You buy the products, you decorate the store, you've launched your idea of opening a store, and now you have an open house. Now you open the doors of the store. But you never built the inventory systems. You never built the accounting processes. You never built the operations of running the store. You don't know how to get customers or retain the customers. You don't have a pricing structure or return policy, right? You got the store, but you never built the operational systems to manage, to oversee, to sustain the store. And at first, it looks exciting. Oh my God, I got a store. I got a store. For many of you, oh my gosh, I got a nonprofit. I started a nonprofit. I got a program. I need a grant. I got a program. But then eventually, the pressure catches up. The pressure catches up. You got money going out, no money coming in. And you're scrambling because you can't figure out why not. How come I can't get a grant? How come I can't get donors? How come I can't get funders? How come I can't get board members? How come I'm doing everything by myself? The pressure is building because you're paying for everything out of your own pocket. You're doing everything. You're not able to delegate. You're not able to leave the organization. You're not able to take a vacation. That if you walked away, if you took a vacation, everything comes to a halt. Everything comes to a halt. The board can't help you. You're stuck carrying the entire organization on the back of your shoulders, and you can't figure out why. And this is what happens to too many of you. The program exists, but the organization does not. Let me use another example. Imagine building a car, and outside, the car looks beautiful. It's painted beautifully. People admire it. And it looks exactly like you envisioned, right? Got this car. It's beautiful. People are admiring it. The car is just like you imagined, except there's no engine in the car. There's no engine. So you got this beautiful car that doesn't move, doesn't go anywhere. Looks good. You got it, but it does not move. And for many of you, you started a nonprofit organization, but it doesn't move. It doesn't move. You're not able to scale the program. You're not able to hire staff. You're not able to achieve the mission. In many cases, you've had to stop the program, or you had to redo the program or reduce the program. You built the car, i.e., the nonprofit organization, from a place of passion, right? Look at my car. Look at my car. I got a nonprofit, Jen. Look, I got my nonprofit, Jen. You are passionate about that program, honey. Jen, we're helping single moms. Jen, we're giving away backpacks. Jen, we're doing summer programs. Jen, I got a transitional house. Jen, you're really passionate about the programs. You got the paperwork, but that doggone thing ain't moving. There's no infrastructure. There's no engine. There's no engine. It has no gas in it. It's not able to move. Why? Because you did not build the engine. You didn't build it. All you did was build you built the program, but the program is an expense. The organization is the engine. You didn't build that. And without the organization having the infrastructure to bring in the funds, the money, that program can't grow anywhere. You'll start it and have to stop it. Why will you have to stop it? Because we don't have any money. We don't have any money, Jen. Now you can't get a grant, which is money. You don't have any donors. That's money. We don't have any sponsors. That's money. We don't have in kind. That's money. We don't have any fundraisers. That's money. I don't know how to get the money, Jen. I don't have the infrastructure. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the system. I don't have the process to bring in money on the organization side. And so now you are self-funding. You become the funding source. Now you've made the organization dependent on you because you're the funding source. You're paying for everything out of your pocket instead of the organization bringing in the money to support itself. But because you didn't know that, you launched the program, you're paying for everything out of your own pocket. Now you become the funding source because there is no donor system. There is no fundraising strategy. There is no financial services or reserves. There is no organizational financial capacity. And as a result, there's no money. You didn't build the engine. So who covers the shortage? You. You. Now you're paying out of your pocket the bills. Now you're funding the events. Now you're covering the emergencies. Now you're carrying the operations, not getting paid, not able to scale, not able to hire help, not able to delegate. Now you're stuck. And over time, the organization becomes more and more dependent on your sacrifice. You're paying out of your paycheck. You're paying out of your savings. You're paying off your credit cards. You are the sole supporter of the organization instead of the organization having the responsibility of supporting itself. And that's not sustainable. That's barely survival. How many years? How many years have you been doing it like this? I talk to y'all every day. Some people say, Jen, I started my nonprofit 7 years ago. Jen, I started my nonprofit 10 years ago. Jen, I started my nonprofit and now I'm stuck. Jen, I wish I had met you 5 years ago, 10 years ago when I started my nonprofit before I had to stop. Jen, I've been running my nonprofit for all these times and no wonder I can't get a grant. No, Jen, we don't have board members. No, Jen, we don't have donors. No, Jen, we don't have a fundraising plan. You're barely surviving. Now, it's not your fault. You don't know. And you don't know what you don't even know. You don't know what you don't know. You thought that Chat and Google told you how to start a nonprofit. It did not. It told you how to fill out the paperwork. And this is the real cost. The real cost is not just money. The real cost of not setting up that organization to be responsible for raising money. The real cost is not just money. The real cost is your mission falling short. Now you're not able to accomplish the mission. Now you're not able to help the people that you say you want to help. That's the real cost. Because now the pantry has to close. Now the youth program has to stop. Now the families that you wanted to support, you can't support anymore. And now your community trust weakens. That you started something that you don't know how to sustain. And now you feel devastated because you really wanted to help people, but nobody showed you. No one told you how to build an organization capable the way it's supposed to, capable of sustaining that help long term. Many of you only saw the view of starting. You never planned for long term. You never prepared for long term. You only thought about starting and nothing else. No, Jen, I don't even know how to get a board. No, Jen, I don't know how to fundraise. No, Jen, I don't know how to get donors. No, Jen, I don't know how to get partners. Jen, I don't know where to start. Jen, I don't have any experience in that. And that pain is real because now you are not able to do what you are called to do because you don't know how to do. No one told you. You've never worked in a nonprofit. You've never run a nonprofit. You've never started a nonprofit. You've never fundraised. But you thought it was a program. No one told you it's an organization. You thought it was a program. I want you to imagine when it's done right. I want you to imagine when it's done right. You see the organizations in your community. You see the organizations in your community that have buildings, that have staff, that have vans and cars. They have multiple programs. How do they do it? Their organization is set up. They have the infrastructure that you're supposed to have. Every organization has the same infrastructure to raise money. The IRS says so. The IRS says so. And many of you are stuck because you don't have what the IRS requires, which is knowing how to bring in the money. That's why you're stuck. It's not a money problem, it's you don't know how. Huh? I want you to imagine. I want you to imagine that your organization has the fundraising systems that it's supposed to have because the IRS says so. The IRS says you know how to project for the next 3 years where and how money comes into the organization. So imagine you have those money raising systems in place. That's what you're supposed to have. The paperwork says so. At the very top, it says, have the organization's gross annual receipts exceeded $50,000 in any of the past 3 years, and or does the organization project its annual gross receipts will exceed $50,000 in any of the next 3 years? That means you know where and how money comes in year after year after year after year. You know, grants are not the only place money comes from. Grants, money, free money that you don't have to pay back. Donors, donations, but I don't have any donors, Jen. I don't have any supporters or corporations or sponsors. I don't have any partners. I don't have any collaborations. That's five. I don't have any in kind. You might have a few gift cards, but that doesn't pay any bills. You are paying cash out of your pocket. The organization is supposed to bring in cash to cover those expenses. Imagine your organization set up to bring in the money the way the IRS says you're supposed to. Because when you are able to sustain, when the organization is able to sustain itself, all of those are streams and ways money comes into the organization. Grants are one of 8. Everybody has 8 ways money comes into the organization. Everybody has 8. You have 15. You have 15, but everybody has 8. Imagine your organization has 8 streams of revenue for ongoing cash flow, because that's what the IRS says you're supposed to have. Year after year after year. That means month after month after month. That means week after week after week. That means you're able to project a year ahead how much money comes into the organization. But if you didn't build that, then you don't have that. But when you do, when you have your fundraising systems in place, when you're able to get donors and retain donors, when you and your board leadership is clear, when your board is functioning as it should in helping the organization raise money, when your operations, your organizational operations are stable, bringing in cash flow to cover the expenses of running the program. Can you imagine your operations are stable? You can hire staff, you can grow the program, you can help more people. That's the way it's supposed to be. Because when it is, donors, those that give the money, trust your organization. Not your passion, not your program. They trust the organization. Why? Because that's where their money goes. Businesses want to be your partner. Those that give the grant see that you're ready to not just get the grant, but to replace that grant money year after year. Now your opportunities to scale increase because they see that you are able to sustain that increase. And now you are no longer carrying everything by yourself. And thus, now your mission has capacity, ability, knowledge to repeat itself over and over and over again. That's how your organization is set up, to bring in predictable revenue consistently, year after year after year, month after month after month. Because if you're not, Jen, we don't have a budget. Jen, we don't have a fundraising plan. Jen, I don't have a board. Jen, I don't know how to do that. Jen, our program had to stop. Jen, I'm doing everything by myself. You just have a piece of paper. That's all you have. And your supporters, your contributors, your sponsors, those that would give the grant money, they're not giving you money because you got a piece of paper. Now, listen, nobody else is going to tell you that. No one's going to tell you that. So you're running around here trying to figure out how come I can't get a grant. I'm telling you why you can't get a grant. You don't have a budget. You don't have a plan to replace the money. You don't have a fundraising strategy. You're doing everything by yourself. And what does that say? That says you built an organization that you don't even know how to run. You don't know how to run it. The IRS assumes you do, which is why they gave you the 501c3. They assume that you know how to set the organization up to raise money. That's why they gave you the 501c3, not to do that program. And the shift that you must make is you got to stop thinking that your program is the nonprofit and start understanding that the organization is what sustains the program. I'm going to say that again. As long as you think that your program is the nonprofit, you're going to stay stuck. You're going to stay stuck. You've got to understand that the organization is designed to sustain the program. Because the program creates the impact. The organization sustains the impact. And if the organization is weak, the mission eventually struggles too. Listen, I help organizations create the infrastructure to raise money. For those of you that may be new to me, my name is Jennifer. I am a nonprofit expert. I'm a professional fundraiser. I am a grant writer. I help thousands of organizations. It has been my entire career for 40 years to raise money for nonprofit organizations and to show thousands of organizations nationally and internationally how to raise money for their nonprofits. It was my full-time job, the day-to-day of running nonprofit organizations. I've held every position in the nonprofit space on the business side. I started out as a grant writer, worked my way up to becoming the director of development, bringing in $20, $25 million a year, became the executive director of the American Red Cross, the vice president, the Los Angeles Mission, United Way, the Black AIDS Institute, the United Negro College Fund. My job was to ensure that the organization makes money. Because without the money, you can't do that program. You can't deliver that program. So I don't give you pieces of information, disconnected information, or random fundraising tips, or isolated strategies. No, I help nonprofits build the actual organization with the responsibility of funding and bringing in the money behind the mission. And without that, you will continue to pay for everything out of your pocket. Again, I tell you from a place of I did the work. Day to day, running nonprofit organizations, training, positioning organizations. I had 3 days to do it. To build the organization to raise money. I had $1,000 a year. That was my job. I help leaders work on their structure, their systems, their organizational infrastructure. Because if those things are not in place, those that give the money don't think that you're ready for the money. I don't teach you to learn. I show you to build. That's it. And I only work with organizations that are ready to scale, that are ready to position their organizations to do the work long term. As long as you don't put together that organization, you're not thinking about long term. You're not thinking about sustainability. You're thinking about your passion for the program. That's fine. That's never going to raise any money. That's never going to get you a donor. That's never going to get you a place where you can scale the program, where you can help more people, where you can have more impact, where you can sustain the work. Your program is not the nonprofit. It's not. And the program doesn't raise money. It only spends the money. The organization behind the program is what determines whether the mission survives. The organization behind the program is what determines whether the program survives. All right? I hope that this information has been clear. I hope that it has been helpful. Again, I share information that you can't get on Google. I share information that you're not going to get from Cousin Chat or from all of them groups that you're in or from guessing. I share information that show you why your organization is supposed to raise money. And without that organizational infrastructure, you're not going to be able to keep that program going. And that would be a shame. Because when you start and then have to stop, the real cost are the people that depend on and need their problems solved. And when you start the organization, and because you don't know how to bring in the money to sustain the program, their needs go unmet. And that's the real cost. Those pantries close. Those shelters close. Those mentoring programs close. Those financial literacy programs close. Those adult care services close. Our work matters. We have a nonprofit status, not because you have a program, but because you do the work that benefits your community, that government cannot do, that for-profit businesses cannot do. That's the cost of you not putting that organization together properly. There is a very real cost. It's not so much that you started it, but you know how to sustain it. All right? Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for tuning in. My name is Jennifer. I am your nonprofit expert, here to help you not just start your nonprofit, but to grow it and to sustain it year after year. Once we've built it, it's built. And now it's able. Now it's structured to bring in the money to continue to do the work. If I can help you in any way, there is an application process. Go to bit.ly/workwithjy, workwithjy. And yeah, when you're ready to raise money, when you're ready to put the organizational structure together to raise money, I'm here to help. You all have a great rest of your day and evening, and thank you again for listening.